the latest act of horrific anti-Semitic terrorism in the U.S. In Boulder, Colorado, yesterday, an Egyptian national in the U.S. illegally has been charged with 16 counts of attempted murder, plus a federal hate crime charge. Police say that the man used Molotov cocktails and a makeshift flamethrower to burn people who were peacefully marching in support of hostages being held by the terrorist group Hamas. He injured 12 people. 2 of them remain hospitalized. Investigators say that the suspect, Mohammed Suleiman, told them he'd been planning the attack for more than a year. And he, quote, wanted to kill all Zionist people and wished they were all dead, end quote. CNN's Shimon Prokopis is in Boulder, Colorado. The suspect just appeared in court. Shimon, tell us what happened.
Yeah, Jake, it was a very quick appearance. This is his initial appearance where he made this appearance before court. He did it from jail, so he didn't even have to physically come to the courthouse. But he's in on a $10 million bail, so there's no chance that he's going to get out. And he's going to be back in court on Thursday here in Colorado, where they're going to officially file those several charges against him for this horrific attack.
The suspect also faces a federal hate crime charge?
Yeah, there is, and that is a very significant charge against him, that federal hate crime charge. He could potentially face more charges from the Department of Justice, but that was also filed today. So you have the state charges now, and then you also now have this federal hate crime, and the FBI and DOJ are continuing to investigate those acts as well. So they're working together with the Boulder police as this investigation continues, Jake.
What happens next? What's the next step, Shimon?
So the next step will be for him to appear in federal court on that hate crime. You know, generally what will happen is perhaps maybe the state case will go first. But the thing right now is about the victims. 2 of the victims, Jake, remain in the hospital. There are several other victims who were released from the hospital. There's that 80-something-year-old Holocaust survivor, very significant, a pillar, a woman of this community that everyone knows, who is such a strength to this community. She was injured. Her daughter was seriously injured as well. And everyone that I have talked to in this community today, this is the woman that everyone talks about because she is here. She's been walking in these walks every week, and to have her attacked in this way has really shaken many of the people. On Sunday, Jake, here in Boulder, there's supposed to be an Israeli festival, so we're going to see an intense amount of security as law enforcement prepares for that festival, Jake.
All right, Shimon Prokopis in Boulder, Colorado. Thank you so much. With us now, Colorado Republican Congressman Gabe Evans. Congressman Evans, thanks for joining us. So your district is just east of Boulder. What are you hearing from your community and the community in Boulder about this horrific attack?
Well, first, just the abject horror that this happened here. Of course, we violently, any violent crime like this is absolutely impermissible in Colorado and America. And so we make no bones about condemning anti-Semitic attacks like this. But the problem is, how do we keep this from happening again? And when we look at the investigation and the information that we have already, and as we'll continue to uncover more information, I mean, 2 things really stand out to me. I spent 22 years in the military and law enforcement, and so I've done these investigations. I've been a part of the global war on terror. And unfortunately, when we have sanctuary states like Colorado that prohibit state and local law enforcement from being able to work with their federal counterparts to be able to identify risky behavior, such as an illegal immigrant who's overstayed 2 visas attempting to buy a firearm, which is what happened in this case, we can't put all the pieces of the puzzle together to be able to prevent things like this from happening, even when there's potentially red flags out there that we're going to continue to learn about as the investigation progresses.
After the attack, you posted a message on X in support of law enforcement that included the message, quote, hate has no home in Colorado, unquote. Do you think the state of Colorado is doing enough to combat anti-Semitism?
Absolutely not. We are the 2nd most violent state in the country right now. We've actually gotten worse. We were the 3rd most violent state last year. And a huge part of that is because of the sanctuary state laws in Colorado that, again, impose a $50,000 fine on law enforcement, state and local law enforcement, if they try to work with their federal counterparts, and immigration is potentially implicated in that conversation. And so one of the big things we learned from the 9/11 Commission after September 11th is that state, local, and federal law enforcement have to be able to work together to be able to prevent things like this. Additionally, we haven't seen a consistent message from the ruling Democrats in the state of Colorado condemning anti-Semitism. In fact, just last year, families of the Israeli hostages, some of the hostages that had been taken, were denied entry into the Colorado State House of Representatives by the Democrat Speaker of the House because they weren't sure that they could keep order amongst the pro-Hamas wing of their party. We have got to condemn the anti-Semitism wherever it's found, and not just when the violence occurs, but beforehand as well.
Anti-Semitism obviously is a big problem on the left, and we've seen that in these violent attacks in recent months. Governor Shapiro's house, the attack and murders outside the Jewish Museum. It is also a problem on the right. I mean, in addition to the Tree of Life synagogue killing in Pittsburgh, which is obviously homicidal, there's been reporting recently that the Pentagon press secretary, Kingsley Wilson, has a history of social media posts pushing anti-Semitic tropes, extremist theories. NPR reports it has identified 3 Trump officials with close ties to anti-Semitic extremists like Nick Fuentes. I think, and again, the problem right now that we're seeing in terms of violence is on the left. And I want to make it clear, I'm not doing whataboutism. But it is really difficult to be a Jew in America and not see this as a bipartisan affliction.
Well, to your point right there, again, the violence right now is coming from the left, which is why we do 2 things. We empower our state and local law enforcement to work with their federal counterparts to absolutely hold accountable these violent attacks when they slip through the cracks. But more than that, we support our state and local law enforcement being able to work with the feds to prevent these things from happening in the first place. And that is very, very difficult in sanctuary states like Colorado, like California, like many other blue states around the country, where state and local law enforcement is not allowed to work with their federal counterparts to be able to put all the pieces of the puzzle together to prevent things like this happening. So, to your point about the violence, we have to be able to work federal, state, and local together to stop this from happening. And then we always condemn anti-Semitic actions, words, deeds, wherever they're found, to make sure that everyone in our community knows this is not appropriate, this is not okay, and you will be called out for it. And if you ever commit a bias-motivated crime against the Jewish community, you will be held to account to the fullest extent of the law.
All right, Republican Congressman Gabe Evans of Colorado, thanks for your time and thank you for your service, sir. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.
Let's discuss what can be done about this crisis of anti-Semitism in the United States of America. We have with us Ted Deutsch, a former Florida congressman, a Democrat who is now CEO of the American Jewish Community. Leora Rez, one of you needs to turn off your TV, I think. Leora Rez is the founder and executive director of Stop Anti-Semitism. That's a grassroots organization that exposes anti-Semitic behavior. You've maybe seen her tweets. Leora, let me start with you. You're a refugee from the former Soviet Union. How is anti-Semitism in America right now compared to what you experienced in the USSR and during that era when it was difficult to be a Jew?
So thanks for having me, Jake. My family thankfully fled the USSR when I was a small child to escape the horrors of socialism and anti-Semitism that were just widespread in the entire region. And growing up, I was very thankful and blessed to never have experienced anti-Semitism as a child, as a teenager, but hearing horror stories from my parents, from my grandparents, regarding the horrific oppression that the Jewish people had faced in apartheid-like conditions in the former Soviet Union. So now, as I am currently in my mid-40s, as a wife, as a mother, myself, now seeing history repeating itself, it's extremely, extremely frightening.